Yeah, I wish I hadn't had that extra pint of bolly at lunchtime. I'm so sleepy. Just rest my eyes a little bit.
Attention! Attention! Attention!
You'll carve the guardsman from a 2x2 inch block of basswood using a number 11 blade in a scalpel or craft knife, a utility knife, or a whittling knife. You can find the links to the scale plans in the video description. Because the arms and legs are so small, it's best to carve them as a single piece. It's also best to carve the head and body as a single piece. The ears and nose get in the way of carving the face, so stick them on later. Pick a block of basswood where the grain runs parallel to the edges. Then cut it into a 1x3/8 inch block, which will leave you a 1/2 inch piece for the arms and legs. The next step is to transfer the design to the block of wood, either by sticking on a print or tracing it and rubbing it on or using carbon paper. Make sure the features line up on all sides and draw centre lines on the blocks. Draw circles on the end of the arms and leg blocks. This is a good time to drill the holes. You'll need to learn how to use a strop to keep your blade razor sharp. Check out the video description for a link. Obviously, carving can be extremely dangerous, so please read the safety tips and my article in Automata magazine before you start. To make the arms and legs, we're going to turn the blocks into cylinders. So place your blade at a shallow angle on a corner of the block and gently push it away to remove a sliver of wood. Continue doing that until you reach the circle on the end. That one needs a little more work, so we're going to remove a few more slivers. Once it's looking fairly good, move on to the next corner, repeating the process, lightly moving the blade away from you to remove slivers of wood. I think it's important to point out that this is a delicate, gentle process. As you can see, we're not removing much wood, so we can let the sharpness of the blade cut the wood using minimal pressure. Try to avoid removing the centre lines so it remains a cylinder. Once that end's looking fairly good, turn it around and work on the other end, gently removing slivers of wood from all the corners and working your way around the block. Yes, I know, you're turning it into a dowel, so why didn't you use a dowel to begin with? Well, to become a carver, you've got to learn how to round things off. It's an essential skill, there's no avoiding it. So the next step while we still have a long piece of wood to hold on to, is to round off the ends and to round off the internal joints. So to start doing this, I'm going to incise the lines between the joints, just letting the dowel roll and pressing down on the blade. Then I cut off the corners of the hand at 45 degrees and lightly round them over to make a hemisphere. Then I do the same at the wrist end of the hand, rounding it off now. Flip it over and cut the leg at 45 degrees and round it over. You're going to repeat this process for all the remaining joints. Whenever I can, I'm trapping the wood in the bench hook and cutting away from myself. That makes it a little bit safer. By cutting towards the incised line, I'm cutting down and through the grain. It would be dangerous, and most likely the wood would split if you tried to carve in the other direction. So I've separated the legs from the arms, and now it's time to move on to carving the head and body, which is a bit more fun. So firstly, you need to cut out the profile. You could do this using a fret saw or a saw and chisels. I stuck the pieces back on with double-sided tape and cut out the front profile, then cut off the corners of the busby. Now it's time to carve the busby into a cylinder using the same technique as on the arms and legs, it's just a bit bigger. I'm carving away from myself using light pressure to remove slivers of wood. Once that's done, I cut off the corners of the busby at 45 degrees and then start working my way around, rotating the piece till it's all a 45-degree angle. Then it's simply a matter of rounding off the top of the busby, just like you did with the arms and legs. I'm rotating the piece with my left hand and doing very small strokes with my right wrist to remove little slivers of wood. So all that's left to do now is to round off the base of the busby. In this instance, I am cutting towards myself, but I'm using very light pressured controlled strokes so I don't stand a chance of cutting into my hand. Now incise the base of the busby and the neck. The face only needs to be very lightly rounded off, as does the rest of the body. Most of the hard work was done when you sawed out the profile of the front and side. So I incised the belt and the collar, and I'm cutting towards them with very small, delicate strokes. One thing that isn't shown on this video is how frequently I'm stropping the blade to hone it back to a razor-sharp edge. I've been doing that every 15 to 20 minutes, and you'll need to do the same. So we're getting near the end now. We're working on the lower body, just lightly rounding it off. It's really starting to take shape now and look like the guardsman. Rounding off the bottom there, and there you go, it's done. It wasn't that difficult, was it really? Anyway, now you've got to stick on some dowels for the ears and nose, and slap on a bit of paint, cut it into the individual components, and you'll have to carve a rifle and boots, string it all together, attach it to your mechanism, and voila. Anyway, happy carving. See you soon.